So I suppose in this particular series of videos that I'm going to be doing, part for my log and for anybody else to see, but it's also my compilation log regarding my Shakespeare class that I'm taking over at Antelope Valley College. As for the African American history class, that was canceled due to decisions I had to make on that one. Not because of the subject matter. No, uh, basically inconvenience concerning about that and transportation. So I have to figure that Shakespeare will be adding more challenge than the other class, even it would be challenging. But transportation sucks, and it's also a blended class, which means you do video as well as in person. I prefer either Zoom or just being there entirely, but it's inconveniencing. All right, date on the log is the 9th of January 2024. It is 1:57 p.m. West Coast time. The Weaver, John C. Rosebank, California, doing the diary grieving named John Weaver. Also, class compilation notes regarding Shakespeare. Now, a fun book. Um, Getting things started with my notes, but also trying to get started with everything else in it, including writing it down and initializing this. This was a precept uh, of Henry V. You guys can stop the recording and watch it, or read it. Maybe you can understand the chicken scratches because it'll be all over this damn thing. They call it an iambic pentameter. Basically, we're talking about 5 by 5 in the beats. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Boom. Then the next one's supposed to be left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. I screwed up on my count. I screwed. But you get the idea. In the movie Renaissance Man, was Danny DeVito in it. He was trying, and there are videos, little clips of it posted on YouTube. I may have to find those clips and post them in a description later on this. But as Danny DeVito was trying to do this, um, my beat sucks. Ba ba da ba ba da ba ba da ba 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 da ba ba da ba ba da ba. You can pound it on your table if you want to. This above all to thy own self be true. This above all to thy own self be true. And one of the one of the characters in there of the squad that Dan DeVito has to teach, his rhythm sucks. My rhythm sucks. But with the help of the fellow soldiers, they're helping him out understand this. So now we got this. We're trying to understand the iambic pentameter of how Shakespeare was doing his play. One of them that the instructor was going to be touching upon is going to be Henry V. Part of the Shakespearean experience that the soldiers were experiencing was part of Henry V, not to mention Hamlet. Henry V was talking about Crispian's Day, and there are lines in there that are extraordinary. Uh, Kenneth, Kenneth Branagh did this back in the 90s, late 90s, did an entire production on this one film. It's wonderful. I'd seen parts of it. I wish I had seen the entire thing, but this was Shakespearean. Shakespearean action and form, not on a stage, but different landscapes. And to hear and read this is to see something in action that blows a mind away. I also seen the clip concerning about Derek Jacobi. I always admired Derek Jacobi. I loved his work. He was in a television show back in the 90s called Cadfile, and him being a monk, uh, he's portraying this character in Ellis Peters' wonderful detective novel series that dealt with medieval England and its history of takeovers from one kingdom to another kingdom, and Europe taking over England one way or another. A hell of a good series to watch when you can get the tapes or see it online. Books are better, more detailed, more in depth. I loved reading those books, but I hate it when I got rid of the damn books. They were wonderful to read and to put your imagination out there and to see this. And even see the production, it was okay. I got involved with the characters, and I got involved with the actors who portrayed the characters, and I hated when they shifted actors, especially when it came down for the under sheriff of Nottingham, Hugh. But the other character was fine, but I liked the other one better because it just fit that way. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, back to the class notes I did. Um, Looking over part of the play again, going online and seeing the clips and saving them as PDF files. I've been doing that. Saving on the flash drive and on the phone. It was the Band of Brothers things that got me thinking. Shakespeare at the time was talking about warriors, but he didn't switch it to the different format that other guys or other people would have recognized if they had. The reason why I do the Diary of the Grieving named John Weaver because I deal with death on a great deal. Mourning, grieving, emotional triggers. One of the words that really brings it out is the term family. For us, we interpret it as family that we have loved ones or we have friends, special friends that we're associated with that mean a great deal to us. People that we would sacrifice our lives for them, and it sometimes have. In combat, the next guy, next service personnel is your brother, regardless of which branch of service it would be. In combat, it doesn't matter. If he was going to be fighting next to you, he was your brother. Could have been back from the Crusades all the way to modern warfare or beyond. Each soldier is a brother or sister. A little bit of both, I guess. But they are still considered one large family. Families usually disagree with each other, sibling rivalry left and right. And there may be some disagreements between who's right and who's wrong at this point. But the point of it is, we're dealing with family. And that's the thing that still strikes in my head on this one is family is everything. Family is all. Family is it. And if you're not thinking and believing that's right. Well, uh, that's my opinions and my observations. How Shakespeare was looking at it. Granted, during those days, they had wars happening between England, Spain, and France, and maybe another country if they were lucky enough. Maybe Germany, maybe not Germany, maybe somebody else. But it's usually the major three war powers during the European conquest days. Their manifest destiny drove me crazy on this one here. And how intermingled relations were between England, Scotland, Ireland. We had France and Spain. Who was a Norman and who was a Saxon? Who was part Viking and who wasn't? Who was Scandinavian and who wasn't? So a lot of conquest during those days. But in the time of Shakespeare, It was still England. It was still Ireland a bit, Scotland still having issues, and it was still France and Spain. So take your pick on which particular guys you're thinking about fighting left and right. So when you're going into combat, you're going into combat with somebody, and if they're on your side, then they are your brother theoretically. Unless of course you're going to have a backstabbing bastard, and therefore you got Caesar right there in the play. Head to Brutus. A group of people backstabbing me? How dare you? I'm your Caesar. I'm your king. I'm your leader, and you backstab me, you backstabbing bastards. I didn't have to say it that way. It just emoted that way. You know that old adage that keeps bouncing around and nobody else can pin down. Caesar fiddled while Rome burned. Yeah, we're into those political days, aren't we? But I'm digressing from something that I wanted to talk about. The Band of Brothers. There are shows out there, there are media out there that demonstrate Shakespearean qualities in different forms and functions. One of which happens to deal with Band of Brothers, and we'd seen the HBO World War II series concerning about the what was the 501st? No, 506 Paratrooper Infantry Regiment being trained in Currahee, Camp Currahee, Georgia, I think. And these guys had survived a hell of a lot. I mean, there has been whittling of major characters and major people in the books series. Watching the film, seeing how the characters portray each other. I watched that with my brother a great deal when he was alive. These days, it's hard as hell for me to watch any kind of military film like that because I am reminded of me and my brother and how tight we were on this earth. Watching Band of Brothers was one of those times that we were banded. We were brothers because we were born under one mother, two different fathers. We were bonded because we watched each other's back. Him the older, I'm the baby. 8-year difference. Emotionally, he was in my life most days. Most of my days. Up until the day he died. Well, just about anyway. And having that three, that spiritual, physical, and emotional connection, all three, it made me truly a band of brother with him. And it was family. When I'd seen the clips or even tried to see the movie of Renaissance Man, it was the hardest thing for me to watch because Shakespeare was trying to do this. Now, keep this in mind. In the film, Renaissance Man is dealing strictly with army recruits with Danny DeVito trying to teach these guys to pass certain basic skills so they can move on in the army, to be actually officially with them. Because if they failed, they failed. They will not do anything. They will get kicked out of the army and whatever kind of consequences they had. But by teaching Shakespeare, teaching them memory, and a lot of things that Shakespeare, that Danny DeVito was trying to emulate and explain and educate them. It helped the men focus more and more. What's the matter? What matters the most? There's a clip that they have on YouTube where in a bivouac training at night, and it's raining as hell, and these guys are doing physical PT. And one of the cadets that DeVito was training, actually educating, DeVito, no, Benitez, Gregory Hines was the portraying drill sergeant in there. God rest his soul. And he was drilling this guy, questioning him. And the character quoted Shakespeare, Caspian's Day. Listening to that, the soldiers stopped and just stared, and so did Heinz's character. DeVito's in the background, or sometimes in the foreground. He's going to be presenting a file to the sergeant regarding another soldier that should have been recognized. And DeVito couldn't be more prouder seeing his student showing what he learned and how the student was demonstrating this to his sergeant, his drill sergeant. Back in the 80s, early 90s, it didn't hit me hard. I thought it was just a good drama film with Danny DeVito. Made some a bit of comedy, but it was emotional. These days, I can't stand watching it because of the implications I see in it, because they are triggers for me and how emotionally impacting it is. I'm seeing a group turning into a band of brothers. Brothers to me is family. Family is everything. Family is a trigger. Family is what makes me go nuts, and it'll build up in me that to a point where I'll see something innocuous, and then out it comes. But this Shakespeare at work, he was a writer struggling for survival. Actors barely got anything, but they wanted to act, either for the common good or for whatever reasons they had. But they were acting, and they were acting out, and they were acting to the audience who had to use imagination of what they were seeing on stage. And you couldn't understand this particular situation because I don't think Shakespeare really understood this one at all when he wrote Henry V. Mostly historical plays, but putting it into a dramatic sense. But somewhere in there, considering about Caspian's Day, this dramatic moment that they keep replaying left and right, left and right, left and right, considering about how soldiers will band together. And I keep thinking, you guys are missing a point on this one here. It's building up family. A group of guys who are willing to shed their lives and their blood for their companion or for the next soldier. That's soldierly. That's what people are usually used to saying all the damn time, but they're not saying the one word in it that you may have missed on a lot of occasions. It's family. This was one major play that I still need to go over. I mean entirely, not just one section of it. And I got 16 weeks to go through this one because this one's got to tear me apart. This one's got to be putting me through the emotional wrecker in this one. Somebody had once said on social media, science fiction will tear people apart because what the messages that they send. And I would probably send a copy of this link over to that gentleman, and I would say Shakespeare did more than science fiction ever did, and you weren't paying attention to it. Our writers of today, even the writers of the 19th and 18th century, were picking on Shakespeare and his dramatical skill. We credit him to be a genius at this point over here because we fall in love with his work. But back then, he was struggling for survival. He was depending upon his muse to understand, understand what was going on around him and have everyone else be entertained, but maybe be educated in a way that Shakespeare didn't intend. Sure, I mean you had a box seats of the royal guys looking at this thing with their finery and just getting a night out of the town, while the people down below are watching it, laughing, and you know, ground zero with the stage actors. What we all get out of it is our own internal personal interpretation of what we're learning and going through. This was one class I wanted to hold on to and really do well in for the entire semester. I may not have been able to focus on African history, but maybe I'll take care of that one next term. Hopefully, when the hours are a hell of a lot better than the ones I've seen, and not being blended, meaning half Zoom, half in person. I wanted an entire person or Zoom, but I ain't doing the both. I'm not doing it both, and that's going to be stressing me out like crazy, especially when I have to keep going back and forth. I mean, every single day for 5 days a week, okay. But on some of those days, you may be doing Zoom. I'm like, no, then let's do Zoom, or we don't do Zoom. But for the most part, I want to see what the hell I'm dealing with. I want to see what I'm dealing with. I want to be focused on it, if I can be. Shakespeare is going to be taking a hell of a lot out of me because of the topic matters we're going to be talking about. And there are going to be triggers in there. And no doubt my professor is going to be wondering what the hell's going on with Mr. Weaver here. Because Mr. Weaver has to be dealing with the dramatics and has to deal with the medias that are finding its way into me emotionally and spiritually to change me, challenge me, and really put me through the records. Put me through the junkyard. Maybe there's going to be some kind of weird ass contraption coming out of it that makes sense. And true, I'll try to jot down a few notes here and there. I ain't going to do any sketches because I'm a lousy artist anyway. But if I'm going to be conveying anything, it'll be on video. I'll be putting that information in that these things are important to me because I can try to elucidate what I'm trying to convey. I'm trying to bring my message forth one way or another. Granted, I'll be a fool and idiot. Something I've accepted a hell of a long while ago. On this particular channel, for the next 16 weeks, I'm going to see if I can do as many videos as I possibly can. Not to mention uh, trying not to waste too much space on flash drives. They're very expensive these days. So I have to limit my talking points. But this is the first. So we'll see what happens tomorrow.